Hello, just going to run over a few of my sketchbooks for this video while explaining what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of months. So as you probably know if you watch previous videos, I've been doing a comic that is related to sort of medieval fantasy stuff, which is ever closer to going up online. I've managed to finish the first page and I've got another 13 ready to go, so I'm just needing texts, so they will be going up soon. One every week, more than likely. Probably this week we'll have the first page live. So this is one of my old sketchbooks from several years ago. I think the images you've seen so far were all drawn from photographs taken at, I think, Caerphilly Castle. Yeah, Caerphilly Castle. So it's a few little demonstrations that they were doing with the weapons and everyone in costume. So some nice reenactment stuff that goes on there. I've been interested in this sort of thing for a long time, so this wasn't done for the project I'm working on now, but I have them lying around because I'm always into this sort of thing, and I always go along to reenactment events when I reasonably can, when they're nearby. I can get to them. So yeah, I don't think these were for anything in particular. I think I used some of these drawings for one of my early projects in uni, or possibly the final major project I think some of them went into when I was doing stuff for my portfolio. I think I did a few paintings based on some of these sketches that are sort of long gone now. I don't know if I've even still got them. So yeah, some of the early drawings there were from Caerphilly Castle. I think most of the later ones were from the Tewkesbury Medieval Festival, which I've been to a few times. I never actually managed to stay the whole day because I seem to be very, very allergic to the place where it's held. So I've only once managed to stay for the actual battle, unfortunately, as I'm usually really not feeling well. I can manage my hay fever the rest of the time, but in that one place, for some reason, it just goes awful. Anyway, these are from the sketchbook that is more directly related to this project. This is my newer one. These images were drawn from actual life. I think everything in this book. This was from Oxford, the Natural History Museum in Oxford. So mainly looking at medieval stuff, but it's also fantasy world, so I've been trying to collect a few drawings of things that I can possibly use for sort of creature and monster designs at some point. So I sat and drew a number of skulls of various animals. They have quite a lot of things at there. A lot of skeletons at that museum. But my main interest in going to Oxford was the Pitt Rivers Museum, which is behind the Natural History Museum, and looking at some of the weapons and armour that they had on display there. Not necessarily anything in particular, just generally getting an idea of how these things look. Because you can always alter things to suit when you're redesigning things or designing things for fantasy. You don't have to use them all as they are. I was looking a lot at the hilts there of sort of rapiers, because I wanted to do a little bit more of an interesting hilt and guard on one of the characters' swords, the side sword that she uses, Olimia. A few bits of armour there. I was looking at the way that breastplate attaches, and there's also there, I think it's a World War One sniper helmet, German sniper helmet, which I think doesn't appear to be any different to the normal infantry helmets from what I can see of it. But while not directly relevant to medieval stuff, a helmet is a helmet to some degree, and the design that they've chosen is fit for purpose. So you can always take some ideas from the way that they've shaped things for any sort of period, really. And at least not if you're doing something accurate to history, then not so much. But for fantasy, you can kind of mix and match things a bit more. We've got a fair few bits of samurai armor there, so I was looking at the helmets on those as well. Again, not directly useful, but just the general idea and the shapes are usable. I'm going back to the natural history and looked at more skulls. We've got some dinosaur fossils there. And a very exciting blank page. I also did a few little sketches in this book of the sort of poses and some thumbnails later on that I use for the comic on just kind of working things out, getting shapes of the body and stances and things. To be honest, most of the good stuff I've done is on the computer. It's just I had a couple of things I doodled in there just as I had a chance to. I think these ones then are from National Museum of Wales, I think, the one in Cardiff. These are primate skulls. I'd tell you what they are if I could read my writing that I labelled them as. I think there's a chimpanzee one. Yeah, that's a chimpanzee. Again, looking at things I can possibly use for creatures and monsters. I think the primate skulls I was looking at in particular because I've got orcs in the setting, and I may sort of use those as a basis for designs for those. No idea what that is again. But again, just kind of looking at skeletons of things. There's a cassowary, I think. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, the thing I'm going to be doing over the next few months is I've been doing a lot of work on looking at arms and armour for my main project for my master's degree. And it would be quite interesting to impart some of that knowledge, I think, and kind of make some, I guess, like little tutorials on how armour works, not really from a historical perspective completely, and not more from a drawing perspective, more from if you want to draw your own armour and you want it to look semi-realistic or as realistic as you can with limited knowledge, this is how you do it. I don't pretend to be an expert in the subject, but I know enough to kind of make something that, from a drawing perspective, painting perspective, it would reasonably work. So that's the main. I'll get back to that in a minute. These are drawings from Cardiff Castle, which is a pretty cool place. I've drawn there far too often, so I'm not. As I flick through these images, I'm a little bit bored of these drawings because I draw the castle so often. So it's a place I've been to fairly often. I know rather well. They have reenactment things there as well, so I think they've got a few sketches from those ones somewhere. Just some thumbnails that I mentioned earlier. You may have seen one of these, the one with Lemmy with the helmet on, in one of the other videos in the sort of completed version. And then I think there's some images from the Wallace collection. Yeah, I drew at the Wallace collection in London, which is not a place I was particularly keen on. I had a lot of stuff there, but it just wasn't. It never really felt like a relaxed kind of museum-y atmosphere that you could draw in well. So I didn't stay as long as I was expecting, but I got a few nice drawings out of it. But back to my plan. The plan is to kind of give anyone who's interested an idea of how armour functions somewhat realistically for when you draw your own and design your own characters and things like that. Because it's one of those things I spot quite often now that I kind of know a bit about it, is when you see a drawing and it's like that armour wouldn't really function, which is fine. Fantasy kind of runs a spectrum of sort of very realistic up to completely ridiculous and out there, and I like both ends of that spectrum and everything in between. Really, I love sort of fantasy stuff. But for those who are interested in doing more things on the more realistic side, it'd be good to give you guys that information. But then for me, I can't really do the unrealistic stuff, I think, because it annoys me a little bit. And I'm so intent on using reference for things. And I kind of want to break out of that a little bit, because one of the many potential things I want to be doing in the future is concept art for video games and animation and film and that kind of thing. And they can get, especially video games, can get quite over the top with the sort of designs that they have. And I'm not very good at doing that end of that spectrum. So I think in doing what I've planned, I can kind of have a go at kind of comparing and contrasting the realistic with the unrealistic, so I can kind of get an idea of where you need to cut things out and do your own thing and kind of go off the wall a bit. Anyway, I've got a bit of footage that Hannah took at the Tewkesbury Medieval Festival just to kind of fill the runtime while I just talk about the last bit of what I'm actually doing. The next few weeks I'm going to be doing some very basic little tutorials over on kind of, this is how a breastplate works and this is how the sort of armor attaches. I probably won't be using all the proper names for things because I don't know the specifics of everything. So it's going to be, like I said, more from an artist's perspective, not kind of accurate academic study of the subject. I think that will take about 2 or 3 weeks, and then once that's done, I'm going to start taking various armor designs from different media, anime, video games, film, that kind of thing, and kind of analysing it and redrawing it in a way that is more consistent with historically accurate armor. Well, not necessarily historically accurate, but the way that armor should function on a human body, how it would fit and move around. And that's not to do as a service to the designs themselves. I'm going to be choosing exclusively designs that I actually think look good. And from that, I kind of want to build up an idea of what is important from a design perspective as opposed to what's important from a realism perspective. Because like I said, I kind of want to do the more outlandish designs. I'm just so focused and stuck in doing the realism that I can't quite wrap my head around the unrealistic stuff. And what I want to be able to, because like I said, I do like that sort of thing as well. I like both ends of that fantasy and realism spectrum. I don't know if that's the best way of going about it, because I am going to be translating them into something more realistic. But I think because that's what I understand and how I look at things, I think it's kind of necessary that I interpret it through that lens and look at the designs as kind of this design element is important, and it's more important than the realism, if that makes sense, which it probably doesn't, because it's slightly confusing to me as well, which is why I'm doing it, really. If I knew all about this, it wouldn't be worth me doing it, because I'd already know everything. So that's the plan. It's probably going to be, I'd say, at least a 3-month project if I do one video a week, which realistically I'm probably going to miss a few, so maybe slightly longer than that. So yeah, that is my current plan. Definitely like, comment, subscribe if you're interested in that. Definitely subscribe if you're interested, so you can kind of keep up to date with them. If you have any suggestions for armor designs you'd like to see me cover, put them in the comments below. There's no guarantee I'll do them. As I said, I want to keep it to ones that I like the look of, because I don't want to kind of say this design is bad. I want something that I can really get into and have a good look at. But you know, if you put something in there, it'd be good for me to have a little look. And my knowledge is limited on it. You know, I kind of only use designs that I've seen in media that I've consumed. So if you've seen something different, it would be quite interesting for me to have a look at that as well. Anyway, I think I've rambled enough. I will see you in next week's episode. Well, I guess first episode of this new project. I hope you enjoy it. See you then. Bye.